environment where a child grows up has a profound effect on her learning and the future. According to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, Article 28, states should make higher education accessible to all on the basis of capacity by every appropriate means, and make educational and vocational information and guidance available and accessible to all children. Let us examine how accessible is higher education in Georgia. According to the UNICEF, in 2013 in Georgia, 27% of all children lived in poverty, that is 2% more than in 2011. 50,000 children live in the severe poverty and consume less than 2 Georgian lari a day. In 2012-2013 school year, only 57% of 17-year-olds boys and 47% of 18-year-old boys are receiving any kind of education. Let us look what influence does the poverty have on the academic success and career planning. According to the Georgian government, there is unequal distribution of poverty among urban and rural population. The gap between urban and rural populations increased in the 21st century. 2/3 of the poor live in the rural areas. International assessments of education also shed light on the influence of poverty on education. Study of literacy pearls places students from urban schools above the international average, where those from the rural areas are way below. Other factors influence the educational success of the children as well, such as expenditures of government on education, school infrastructure, teacher professionalism, cooperation between school and the family, and accessibility of the non-formal education. Government expenditures per capita do not exceed 3% of GDP. There is a shortage of teachers in mountainous and rural schools. Cooperation between schools and the families should improve. For example, according to the study of the literacy pearls, only 13% of schools do not have the problem of attendance, where the international average here is 37%. Let us look at the additional costs of education. According to the 2011 study of private tutoring in Georgia, every fourth school-age student receives this service. The numbers are critical in the finishing grades of high schools. Tutoring differs by intensity in the capital and elsewhere, as well as by the level of income. In the capital, almost every child in the high-income family studying in the 11th and 12th grades has a private tutor. Education costs are second highest after the cost for food. As explained by the respondents of the study, students do not have a tutor in case of financial constraints. Georgians think that private tutoring increases chances of getting into the university. One of the foundations for the intensity of private tutoring is the examination and testing system. Students have to take 8 school exit examinations and 4 university entrance examinations. Poor students rarely have private tutors, and their scores on the grant-seeking examinations are low. Therefore, they have to pay for their tuitions in the absence of grants. How do applicants choose universities? Those who graduate schools not from the capital choose among less prestigious universities more often. Graduate from a high mountainous village will choose less prestigious university with 12 times higher probability than a graduate from the capital. Prospective students look at the distance to their home, living and tuition costs, and programs. A school graduate from a village will become a student in a less prestigious university with 7 times higher probability than the one from the capital. A student from a mountainous village will get into the less prestigious university with 8 times higher probability than those from the capital. So how can the situation be improved? To improve the situation, those connected to schools in Georgia should realize the demands of the Convention of Children's Rights, evaluate the social and economic situation in Georgia, and participate in shaping education policy on school, local, and central levels. It is important to channel the private resources to the public schools instead of the private tutoring services. Education policy should rest on the following principles. We should encourage schools to support diverse approaches. We should value the education in its broad sense and not in the narrow sense. School directors and teachers should be valued not only when they teach advanced STEM subjects, but also when they care about the disadvantaged by media, by government, and by society. Instead of spending more than 10 million lari on producing and administering tests every year, these funds should be distributed to schools. For example, each public school could get on average 5,000 lari for developing innovative teaching and learning approaches, additional subjects, school projects, or other. Parents should have incentives to spend their funds that are otherwise channeled to private tutoring on education that is wide and meaningful. They should be encouraged to spend their funds on school projects, school trips, libraries, clubs, etc. This would be possible if schools will not be punished for fundraising, and if there will be wide public overseeing instead of bureaucratic control, when there will be co-financing from the state of the clubs, libraries, field trips, school inventions, etc. Entrance criteria to the higher education should be diversified. Examinations should be just one, but not the most important component for acceptance. Others can be the ones instituted by the universities, school grades, and other experience from outside of schooling system. It would be also useful to have a scholarship fund that would enable applicants from the low social and economic status to enter the prestigious universities.